This anime series begins with a fierce battle in a snowy mountain region where many warriors have fallen. Finally, only 2 robot warriors are left facing each other. They decide to use their strongest attacks to end the battle. Just as their swords are about to clash, the scene suddenly shifts 450 years later to a modern school, where a female student named Yuki is in the teacher's office with her mother. Her mother and the teacher are arguing about Yuki's future career direction. Yuki had written in her application form that she wanted to go to Mars to explore alien life. However, her teacher thinks this is too far-fetched, especially since her grades aren't high enough, and advises her to change her preference to other constellations. Despite this, Yuki's mother always supports her daughter's decision, leading to a tense debate between the two. When the argument pauses because Yuki's mother has to leave for work, she forgets her phone behind. Yuki and her best friend Mika decide to go find her mother to return the phone. During this process, we learn that Yuki's mother works for a renowned research center called and is the head of research there. When Yuki and Mika reach the rooftop, they see that her mother has already boarded a plane back to the center. With no other choice, the two friends decide to go to the center to return the phone. On the way, they meet Sophie, a junior student 2 grades below who has just returned from a career counseling session. Hearing about Yuki's aspirations, Sophie mocks her and suggests that with such poor performance, Yuki should reconsider what she'll become in the future. I'm angry just hearing this, let alone how Yuki must feel. After saying this, Sophie leaves for the research center to work. Yuki wants to ask her to return the phone, but the girl tells her driver to speed up, leaving Yuki behind. With no other option, Yuki and Mika also have to go there. The place has many different types of robots created by Yuki's mother. The two split up, with Mika going to find her father who also works there, while Yuki returns the phone to her mother. Seeing that there's still time, she decides to visit some acquaintances. Here, they are researching a strange black cube that allegedly fell on Yuki's school 60 years ago. There was also a robot that fell along with this cube, but it no longer functions and has been put away. A black researcher believes this cube is more like a demon than a robot. This becomes even more mysterious as Yuki's father, who specializes in researching demons and mythical phenomena, has been missing for 8 years. While everyone is discussing, suddenly 4 beams of light fly by outside and another object falls near the center. Immediately after, a giant robot appears, followed by many smaller robots attacking the center. The situation becomes chaotic as everyone quickly evacuates. Yuki's mother decides to send out 2 robots to deal with the attack. During this time, the black cube begins to react strangely, and when Yuki touches it, it opens to reveal an unconscious man inside. When this man wakes up, he introduces himself as Takasada and calls Yuki Princess. When he sees the black researcher, he immediately draws his sword and attacks, assuming he's a demon. Outside, the battle between the 2 robots and the enemy is intense. With good coordination, the 2 robots quickly defeat their opponents. Inside, Toki also faces a robot that has infiltrated the center. Although he has just woken up and is still weak, he manages to fight and finally defeats this robot, but also exhausts himself and faints immediately after. The mobile unit then arrives to take control of the situation. The situation in this area is becoming increasingly dangerous as not only is this place under attack, but many other types of robots are appearing and moving towards other locations for unknown purposes. Back at the base, Toki is taken to a special holding cell. Yuki's mother, intending to learn more about Toki, conducts an investigation but discovers nothing beyond his name. After that, she leaves with her colleagues to discuss the recent events, leaving Yuki alone to observe Toki. When Yuki sees Toki wake up, she quickly sneaks out to approach him. When she arrives, she finds her mother trying to communicate with Toki, but suddenly Toki overpowers her and frees himself from the cell. While escaping, he drags Yuki along. The research center begins to send out emergency signals to capture Toki. The two try to hide in a secluded corner, and here Toki realizes that Yuki is not the princess he was tasked to protect. When Yuki asks Toki about his true identity, he only replies that he is a lowly soldier assigned to protect the princess. By this time, Yuki's mother has mobilized forces to surround them, but the cube from earlier arrives in time for Toki to lead Yuki away, and the cube transforms into a vehicle to help them escape. Instead of running outside, Toki decides to go underground following his instincts. They quickly reach an area with other inactive robots. Toki reveals that this is a black robot and he is its owner. They both enter to reactivate the robots. Toki senses the presence of demons, and at that moment, the yellow robot also recognizes his presence. Then Toki and Yuki head straight towards the demons. The army has appeared to stop the yellow demon, but their weapons have no effect due to being blocked by an invisible armor. The command center receives notification about the appearance of other robots, and as they prepare to order an attack, Yuki's mother calls and requests not to attack because it's a black robot. Inside the black robot, Yuki is still not used to controlling the robot, so Toki has to do everything. Although still clumsy, Yuki contributes partly thanks to her ability to give directions. Since Toki is from ancient times, he's not familiar with the changes in the world around him, so he needs Yuki's guidance to avoid attacking innocent people. Soon, they encounter the demon. Toki states that even though the princess is gone, his mission is still to eliminate evil demons. He rushes into battle, but the demon uses the terrain to continuously attack Toki, causing him difficulties. Yuki, in her fear, remembers her father's words that demons will eat humans and destroy the world. While still confused, 4 other demons appear, preparing for an extremely explosive invasion. Toki easily defeats the smaller demons, but the yellow demon remains a formidable opponent as it constantly launches surprise attacks. However, thanks to Yuki's quick-wittedness, they turn the tables and wound the demon. Just as Toki is about to finish it off, a Goemon Ammonai screen appears and helps the demon escape. After that, he goes to a place that was once considered the princess's palace, but no one has been there for a long time. Toki begins to accept the reality that now he has nothing left but the goal of slaying demons. He decides to take Yuki as a hostage. At this moment, her mother calls and wants to talk to Toki. She repeatedly warns Toki not to touch her daughter. Right then, a stun bomb from the unrescue team arrives to save Yuki. Toki tries to control the black robot, but it doesn't work, and he is captured again. They can't bring the black robot back, so they can only leave it and build a research facility there. In the following days, Toki repeatedly tries to escape from the research center. On his way, he encounters Sophia, who easily subdues him, but he gropes her breasts to escape, then gets collared by the mobile unit. This is Toki's 3rd failed escape attempt. As for Yuki, she has to constantly undergo health checks after the battle. When she goes out, she meets Maki again, and her younger sister Koharu also comes here with their uncle who takes care of the sister in place of their mother. After talking with Yuki's mother, the uncle decides to talk to Toki. This time, Toki doesn't show any attitude and seriously talks with the uncle. They converse, and the uncle suggests that if he wants them to believe he's a samurai fighting demons, he needs to give them trust. Both sides need to understand each other clearly to cooperate. After that conversation, Toki gradually stops showing a resistant attitude when someone comes to interrogate him. While Toki is being escorted, he accidentally encounters Yuki's sister wandering around the research institute. The soldiers think the little girl is lost and want to take her to her mother, but Toki thinks they want to attack her, so he doesn't hesitate to take down the 2 soldiers and escape. Yuki's sister follows, leading the way for Toki. Outside, while they are walking, a demon suddenly appears and attacks. Toki doesn't have his sword with him, so he can only take a beating. As for Yuki, after not seeing her sister anywhere, she hurriedly goes to the Lost Child Center to make an announcement. At this moment, Toki runs back to tell Yuki that her sister has been captured by demons and now he needs her help to rescue Koharu. They quickly set out to find the girl based on voice signals. At this time, soldiers appear to capture the escaped Toki. In this critical moment, the cube appears again and takes them both away. Yuki quickly traces Koharu's location, and as soon as they catch up, Toki immediately jumps down to fight. Unfortunately, the sword that has been through 450 years has worn out, and the demon only needs 1 strike to break the sword in half. At this moment, soldiers arrive to support Toki. They quickly finish off the demon and rescue Koharu. Toki now realizes that the cut on that rock is something he left behind when fighting. He has also gradually accepted the fact that he is no longer in his own era. After returning, the uncle comes to talk to Toki again. Toki thinks that now there's no princess or anyone to protect, so there's no reason to live. The uncle suggests that he try living with them, maybe he'll find his purpose. Then the uncle invites Toki to eat because he looks very hungry. The uncle takes Toki home to live with everyone, and they eat together to welcome him. Today, Yuki has cooked curry. Toki looks at it and thinks it's feces, adamantly refusing to eat it. But when he sees everyone else eating it, he forces himself to try. And when he eats it, he can't complain. When he sees Yuki adding chili to the curry, he wants to add as much as possible, even though it makes his face red with spiciness. Nevertheless, Toki finishes his curry portion. On Yuki's mother's side, they are observing the world situation. Besides the yellow robot, there are still 5 more scattered around the world. All of them are searching for something. As for the black robot, no pilot has been able to control it yet. Back to Yuki, Toki is getting used to everything. Koharu has turned on the TV for him to watch, and he's starting to get interested in it. While watching, Toki hears a noise in the next room, so he rushes over. It turns out to be Koro, Yuki's pet, climbing on the vacuum cleaner. Toki thinks it's driving a robot, so he quickly follows, only to be outmaneuvered by a ferret. Because he's dirty, Toki decides to take a bath. At this time, the uncle also comes to bring him clothes and teaches him how to wear underwear. Downstairs, Yuki's mother has called home to check in and reminds her to use the collar when Toki shows signs of wanting to run away. She also agrees to let it pass. Because Toki is taking too long in the bath, Yuki goes to check. He has just finished bathing, but she sees that he's not wearing underwear. Toki proudly shows her that he has used her favorite towel as a substitute, causing her to run away embarrassed. The next morning during training, Toki still clearly remembers the battle in the past and the princess's departure. At breakfast, the uncle asks Yuki to take Toki on a tour of the city and buy him some supplies. Yuki can't refuse and has to agree. When they go out, there are 2 agents following to ensure nothing happens. Then they arrive at the shopping district. Toki is still amazed by the changes in the world. On the way to buy things, Yuki is discovered by the press because the news of her fighting on the black robot has spread. They not only ask about the black robot, but also mention her father, making Yuki uncomfortable and wanting to leave. But the reporter insists on forcing her to answer, making Toki have to intervene. After that, they leave. The reporter still wants to follow, but is caught by the 2 agents. Then Toki asks Yuki about her father, and whether he really researched evil demons. Yuki explains that 8 years ago, her father announced to the public about the existence of demons, but no one believed him, so he decided to go look for them and then disappeared. At that time, Yuki was also seen as a liar at school. Toki believes that evil demons really exist because he has always fought them. That evening, Yuki went to her father's research room and gave Toki his notebook. Toki learns that he is the only survivor of the battle 450 years ago. There is a photo attached with a message that evil demons will return. The next morning, Yuki's class has a new student, none other than Toki. Going back 40 hours earlier at the research center, Yuki and Toki will be monitored by the military because she will become a pilot, as only she and Toki can control the black robot. The nervous systems of both are perfectly suited to connect with the black robot. Temporarily, Yuki will be appointed as a reserve soldier with the rank of 2nd lieutenant, while Toki has sketched the face of the evil demon that Yuki's father had seen. Then both are taken to meet other pilots, Captain Tom, Lieutenant Mei, Sophie, and finally Toshi. Back at school, Toki is still trying to integrate. He still doesn't fully understand the Gen Z teen codes, so Yuki tells him to Google anything he doesn't understand. But this is still not enough historical knowledge that Toki needs. At this point, a teacher suggests they go to the library to learn more. This is the largest library in the country, the pride of the school, and Toki can learn about any history here. After some time learning, Toki has also accepted that the samurai era has long passed. Although the sky is still the same, the world has changed too much. And this teacher is Marina. She is the healthcare teacher. If Toki needs anything, he can come to the infirmary to find her. At this time, Sophie has come to find him. She asks what his purpose for fighting is. Toki says it's to complete the unfinished goal of the Washiba clan, in other words, revenge. After hearing this reason, Sophie expresses disappointment because the black robot, humanity's most valuable asset, is being used for such a lowly purpose. After saying this, she leaves. During this time, the black robot is being brought back to the research center by the military. While studying, Yuki receives an emergency notification. Toshi has come to pick them up along with Sophie because the demons have come again. Toki doesn't go with Toshi but uses his cube to carry Yuki. a classmate who secretly likes Yuki also drives after her. At this time, in the cordoned-off area, 3 beams of light fly down. It's the yellow robot after having its arm restored. Toki and Yuki also arrive at the black robot and activate it. The military is now attacking the robot, but it's completely ineffective. Toki also arrives soon after to confront it, and both sides enter into battle. These robots play very dirty by surrounding Toki. Every time he attacks the yellow one, the others attack from behind, making him struggle to fight back while reinforcements have not yet arrived. As a result, he is severely beaten by the demons. Both are subdued and stabbed straight into the cockpit, but fortunately, the stab doesn't hit anyone. Nevertheless, both the person and the black robot are injured to some extent. At this time, reinforcements have also arrived to support, but the yellow one can still handle it. Then everyone splits up to deal with each one, giving Toki a chance to face off one-on-one with the yellow one. Sophie's group has successfully neutralized 2 small demons. Now only Toki's side remains. He cuts off the remaining arm of the yellow one, but also loses his sword. However, he still turns the tables and uses its own sword to finish it off. At this moment, a human appears inside the robot. He introduces himself as Hido, a border reform officer of Efidalg. He thinks Toki is a traitor, then activates the self-destruct of the robot. Toki immediately recognizes the problem and quickly withdraws from there. An explosion occurs, blowing away an area. At this time, Yuki's 2 friends are also there, and it's unclear whether they are alive or dead. Yuki is shocked to see a person log out for the first time, while Toki believes that person is not human, but just a demon in human disguise. On the battlefield, there are only 2 choices: kill or be killed. Nevertheless, Yuki still cannot accept this truth. Going back to Yuki's past, she was once mocked by her friends about her father's lie about demons. Feeling upset, she told her father that he had lied. He said nothing and just patted her head, then left with a promise to befriend the demons. Since then, Yuki never saw him return. The next day, Yuki and Toki went to the research center for a meeting. Currently, countries are demanding an explanation. The Security Council is also in an uproar, with some wanting to communicate and others wanting to fight the so-called demons. Besides, only Japan has defeated one. Another one that landed in the Nevada desert after destroying Area 51 has stopped functioning. Other demons have shown similar behavior. One was defeated by Russia using a nuclear bomb, but was rescued by the mothership and then reappeared like the yellow one. According to information, this is the second time the demons have come after 450 years. Toki revealed that the black robot is what the princess had stolen from the demons, and because their purpose for coming here is still unclear, they will continue to confront them each time they arrive. Toki and Yuki are their only hope. Japan must show the demons that they are not easily bullied. But Yuki doesn't want to fight anymore. She doesn't want to die or see someone die before her eyes. After saying this, she left. Her mother didn't force her, but accepted Yuki's decision not to participate in the fight. Afterwards, Yuki and Toki returned to school, where people around them were still talking about Yuki's achievements. At this time, the friend of their 2 friends came and informed them that the other 2 had gone missing while trying to film the battle. He wanted to ask Yuki for help in finding them, but the parents of those 2 friends stopped him and accepted their children's departure. In class, Sophie came to encourage Yuki, but it didn't work. At this time, Miss Marina came to teach as a substitute because the teachers were in a meeting about the disappearance of the 2 friends. During swimming class, Toki still didn't know how to start a conversation with Yuki. Seeing his difficulty, Miss Marina came to talk. Toki revealed that he had very little contact with women, so he didn't know how to communicate properly. He just wanted to show Yuki that he could protect her when she was in danger. After hearing this, Miss Marina firmly declared that Toki was in love and must confess. After class, Toki and Yuki went shopping. On the way back, Yuki asked why he was so obsessed with revenge. Toki believed that was all he had, and after he completed his revenge, he would go meet the princess. Hearing this, Yuki became even more reluctant to pilot the black robot. If piloting it would cause Toki to die, she wouldn't do it anymore. Afterwards, they both returned. Koharu noticed the problem and promised to help Toki make peace with Yuki. Then she gave him a tablet to find answers online. Meanwhile, in space, the leaders were planning. They were looking for some kind of stones, then shouted the slogan, "For peace and prosperous Ephidolg," before leaving. Afterwards, they sent a letter to Earth in 195 different languages worldwide, with a message to return the black robot that appeared in Japan. The commander immediately called for Yuki's mother, but she had already returned home to talk to Yuki. The two had an argument when Yuki claimed that both her father and mother always thought of themselves without knowing what she had been through, especially her father, because of whom she was isolated by everyone. Yuki believed he was a liar. Yuki's mother slapped her because she didn't understand what her father was doing, making Yuki even more disappointed and rushing back to her room. Her mother had to return to the research center urgently. The next morning, Yuki had left home. The current black robot cannot be repaired in the conventional way, and accessing its system is also not feasible. However, a strange thing happened. The black robot has the ability to absorb surrounding materials to self-heal. This is similar to the regeneration of Toki's broken sword in the previous battle. The self-healing of the black robot surprised and worried everyone, as it's not just a simple machine but seems to have its own life. Meanwhile, on Yuki's mother's side, the political situation is becoming tense. Although other countries have agreed to return the black robot, the Japanese government still refuses, reasoning that they don't fully understand the demon's intentions. They need to understand their motives clearly before taking any action. At this point, Japan is focusing all its efforts on protecting the research center and allowing the commander to use the black robot in case of emergency. In this context, Koharu calls to report that Yuki has gone missing. The little girl expresses concern because there's no one to cook for her and she's very hungry. Toki immediately searches around and only finds the phone Yuki left behind. In fact, Yuki had fled to Maki's house to get away from everything. Maki worries for Yuki, advising her to consider returning to pilot the black robot to fight and protect the world. But Yuki still firmly refuses. She doesn't want to pilot the black robot anymore, doesn't want to face those risks again. Yuki's mother, worried, called the homeroom teacher to ask about her daughter's situation. However, the teacher is also very busy with other issues and only promises to help as much as possible. After ending the call, the teacher sighs, realizing that his class is full of children with unusual circumstances. Just as the two missing students' case was mentioned, they luckily returned to school safely. Toki also returned after not finding any trace of Yuki. Yuki's uncle advises everyone to stay calm, believing that when Yuki gets hungry, she will automatically return. Koharu then gave Toki some suggestions on how to make peace with Yuki. After reading, Toki prepares to go to school hoping to talk to Yuki. When everyone has left, Yuki quietly returns home to clean up everything. At school, the two friends who just returned were lectured by teachers and parents. When they return to class, they learn that Yuki has gone missing. Toki comes to ask Maki about Yuki, but she avoids answering. At this point, Sophie suggests that Yuki doesn't need to agree to pilot the black robot. Just sitting in it is enough. Sophie's idea is to force Yuki to become a fighting tool. Toki becomes extremely angry after hearing this and leaves. On the way back, Toki receives a report from a citizen that they have seen a demon. The police think it's just a bear, but the citizen insists that no bear has horns like that. At the command center, they receive a total of 10 reports about the appearance of demons. The commander immediately orders increased investigation and tightened security around the research center. Additionally, a robot from North America has returned to the mothership in space carrying an unidentified object. This prompts the commander to intensify efforts to find Yuki, as if she continues to be missing, Earth could be in greater danger. After returning home, Toki discovers that Yuki's father's diary has disappeared. He asks his uncle and learns that Yuki has gone to Kurowashi Valley. Yuki said she would go with Toki, so her uncle didn't stop her. Hearing this, Toki immediately borrows a neighbor's horse to search for her. The two friends, after calling to check, also learn where Yuki is and quickly set out to find her. Yuki is now following the notebook to find her way to Kurowashi Valley, the remnant of Washiba Fortress. While intently reading the notebook, a demon suddenly appears, causing her to panic and run away. While running, Yuki trips and falls onto a rock just as the demon is about to attack. At the moment of danger, something appears and slays the demon right in front of her. Meanwhile, in space, the commanders receive no response from Japan. One of them decides to descend to Earth directly to resolve the situation. After the appearance of the mysterious figure along with a few others plunging straight into Japan, the situation becomes extremely tense. With Yuki still missing, Sophie and Tom are assigned to fight in her place. Meanwhile, Yuki wakes up in a strange place, confused and disoriented. When checking her surroundings, she finds a notebook of her father's about the fall of the Washiba clan. The notebook is covered in blood and contains detailed notes about the demons. Despite knowing the danger, her father still risked his life to record this information, hoping it could help prevent Yuki from being called a liar. Reading her father's notes, Yuki couldn't hold back her tears. At that moment, a mysterious person entered and told her that her father had lost everything, and what she was seeing was just a hazy dream. Yuki's head started to ache, and she fainted again. Meanwhile, Toki was trying to follow Yuki's trail. He heard a noise and chased after something but eventually lost track of it. Two other friends of Yuki also came to this area and discovered the horse that Toki had left nearby. When they came to check, Yuki suddenly woke up, but she couldn't remember anything about the events that had happened before. Toki quickly arrived, and soon after, Yuki's mother called to inform them about the current situation. Not long after, forces arrived to bring Yuki back to safety, while Toki had to prepare for the upcoming battle with the demons. This time, Toki decided to fight alone so that no one else would have to die. Yuki, filled with worry, stopped Toki, saying he couldn't appear and then disappear from her life like that. If he left now, she would carry a heavy sense of guilt for the rest of her life. Yuki explained that it wasn't that she didn't want to pilot the black robot, but everyone just kept giving her orders without asking her politely or requesting her help. Hearing this, Toki bowed his head and begged for Yuki's help. Finally, Yuki agreed, and they both set off to return. Meanwhile, the friend who secretly liked Yuki was determined to outdo Toki by becoming an excellent fighter pilot. The only one who seemed sad was the neighbor because he had just lost his beloved horse. After returning, Toki and Yuki changed clothes and entered the black robot to prepare for the upcoming battle. Although still very afraid, Yuki decided she would no longer run away but would fight. Toki saw Yuki's determination and promised to protect her with his life. They both entered the cockpit and headed straight to the battlefield where they had to face the demons. This time, the demons continued to play their gang-up game, and the green one with 4 arms created many difficulties for Toki and Yuki. Their mission was to hold off the demons until reinforcements arrived, as the launch pad had been overloaded after launching the black robot. During the fight, Toki was restrained, and the spaceship began to pull him up. The commander ordered the use of anti-ship missiles to prevent Toki from being sucked away, although this was very dangerous. However, it was the only choice. A barrage of missiles rushed in and successfully brought Toki back to the ground safely. Toki continued the battle with the green demon. The demons tried to gang up, but reinforcements arrived just in time. The green one climbed high and started slashing down randomly, causing many difficulties for Toki. Yuki sensed that the black robot was also in pain when attacked, but she quickly found a way to cope. Her plan was to lure the green demon to climb over a nearby cliff, where its weight would cause the cliff to collapse and it would fall. As expected, the green demon fell when the cliff collapsed, and Toki quickly eliminated it. However, from inside the robot, an alien appeared, but instead of self-destructing, he decided to surrender. The alien was quickly escorted to the research center for investigation. His weapon was also brought out for analysis, and scientists noticed that its material was no different from Toki's weapon, raising many questions about the connection between him and them. After a thorough examination, this alien was found to be no different from a normal person, except for one detail. On his neck, there was a neural interface, a strange device. Although the doctor wanted to perform surgery to examine it closely, the commander stopped him because the United Nations was about to arrive for interrogation. When officials from the United Nations arrived, they began to question the alien and learned some worrying information. This one called himself Fusnarni, a border reformer in the Jezon Riko team of Epidog. He believed that his planet had absolute power, and his mission, along with others, was to bring prosperity to planets with civilization. But this means that Earth must submit and be under their absolute rule. Fusnarni emphasized that according to his philosophy, the weak must obey the strong, and this is why Epidog wants to take over Earth. Meanwhile, at school, Toki couldn't stop thinking about Fusnarni, feeling that there was something he knew but hadn't revealed. He wanted to meet him to find out more. Yuki also had her own worries as she gradually remembered seeing her father's notebook in the cave earlier. Meanwhile, Yuki's homeroom teacher was having a headache with Akagi, the boy who secretly liked Yuki. Akagi had confidently filled in his 3 wishes, all of which were to become a fighter pilot. Despite the teacher's attempts to explain that to become a fighter pilot, he would have to go through many complex processes. However, Akagi was still adamant about not changing his wishes. Returning to the interrogation, Fusnarni revealed the reason he wanted to retrieve the black robot was to search for the remaining clues of his old group. He revealed that 450 years ago, his team had come to Earth once. The things called joints that they had built had been lost in an accident, and now they were looking for all the pieces of it. He said the old group had been destroyed before completing their mission, and the joints were also destroyed at that time. When asked who did this, Fusnarni refused to answer, but he thought that the owner of the black robot had been exposed. He requested to meet Toki. Toki and Yuki had just arrived at the research center when they received a notification about Fusnarni wanting to meet him. Then Toki was taken for interrogation. He recounted the entire event that took place 450 years ago, when there were many shooting stars falling from the sky. After that, a troop appeared near the meteorites. They began to loot and kill many innocent people. The climax was on the day of the princess's wedding, when they attacked. The princess disappeared, and when Toki arrived at the scene, everything had become chaotic. When he clearly saw their faces, he determined that they were demons. The leader had kidnapped the princess, while Toki was beaten to near death. Not long after that, the Washiba clan's stronghold collapsed. After that near-death experience, Toki couldn't remember anything until he woke up and saw the princess standing in front of him. Toki had promised to use his life to protect her, and they both cut their hands and swore their blood would flow into the square, activating the black robot. They fought together until one day, when the demon self-destructed and they couldn't avoid the explosion. While Toki was telling the story, outside Fusnarni had broken his own hand to escape the handcuffs. He approached a group of black men to retrieve his armor and called for his robot. The commander immediately received the news and everything began to become chaotic. Yuki ran out to check the situation and accidentally encountered Fusnarni, and she was taken hostage by him. Outside, Fusnarni's robot had thrown the sword straight into the command center, disrupting the system and paralyzing most of the control devices. When Toki heard the news, he immediately went to the research room to get his sword and quickly ran to save Yuki. Meanwhile, the robot had broken into the facility, and Tom and Sophie immediately rushed out to confront it. Inside, Fusnarni was leading Yuki to the black robot. Along the way, he didn't hesitate to kill anyone who stood in his way, terrifying Yuki. When they reached the black robot, he didn't stop but continued moving to where the joint stones were excavated. After finding what he needed, Fusnarni led Yuki back to the black robot where he planned to activate it. At the command room, the superior ordered that Yuki must be rescued safely and Fusnarni must be captured whether he's alive or dead. 2 representatives from the United Nations wanted Fusnarni to be captured alive for further interrogation, but the superior didn't care and ordered an immediate attack. At the black robot, Fusnarni realized that it took 2 people to activate it, so he decided to break Yuki's connection with Toki so he could establish a new covenant with her. At this moment, Toki had arrived. Fusnarni used Yuki as a hostage to threaten, but Yuki quickly escaped from his control. Toki immediately rushed into battle with Fusnarni. During the fight, Fusnarni was convinced that Toki must be one of his kind, as only those of Fusnarni's species could control the dark energy. However, Toki insisted that he was human, not a demon. Fusnarni realized that Toki's memories had been altered and, not wanting to prolong the fight, decided to eliminate Toki. However, Toki quickly turned the tables, seizing Fusnarni's sword and subduing him. At that moment, soldiers arrived at the scene. Fusnarni, seeing that he was cornered, decided to take Yuki down with him. But Toki immediately acted to kill Fusnarni, ending the threat. After killing Fusnarni, Toki felt very scared and uneasy because it was the first time he had to kill a human-like creature. Yuki hugged him to calm him down and help him regain his composure. Outside, Fusnarni's robot also stopped functioning immediately after his death, and the situation was brought under complete control. 2 representatives from the United Nations expressed regret that they couldn't gather more information from Fusnarni before he died. The only person who seemed pleased was the doctor, as he was about to dissect Fusnarni's body to learn more about his species. After the battle, Toki thought a lot about Fusnarni's words. Toki's uncle and Yuki's 2 siblings came to encourage him, helping him overcome his worries and feelings of guilt. The next day, Yuki and Toki went together to the Kurowashi Valley to search for the demon who had helped Yuki earlier. But when they arrived, they found only empty land. It seemed the entire area had been relocated. All traces of the mysterious underground chamber had completely disappeared. In outer space, after receiving news that Fusnarni had failed in his mission, the commander of the Ephidog team decided that he and his subordinates would carry out the next mission themselves. He didn't want to rely on anyone else, especially after witnessing Fusnarni's failure. On Earth, summer had arrived and schools began their summer break. However, the homeroom teacher still reminded all his students to pay attention to their studies, as this was their final year and this summer would determine their future. The teacher especially emphasized that Yuki needed to work harder. With her very low scores, it would be difficult for her to go to Mars to continue her studies. Her scores were even lower than Toki's when he first entered the school. When Maki asked Yuki about her summer plans, Yuki said she would attend a pilot training course to be able to protect herself in the future. Shortly after, everyone gathered at the research center to start the training program. Akagi also joined thanks to the help of his father, who also worked at this center. Under Tom's training, most people passed the tests easily, with only Akagi and Yuki lagging behind. During the training, Akagi dislocated his leg and couldn't continue participating, while Yuki was so exhausted that she couldn't eat anything after the training session. Mei and Sophie had to come to help Yuki relax, with Mei even using a special method to help Yuki's body recover quickly. The next morning, while everyone else continued training, Yuki and Toki had to attend summer school under Toshi's guidance. Although Toshi had a quite gangster-like appearance, he was extremely excellent in all subjects. After the lesson, they were trained in shooting. Sophie easily hit the bullseye while Yuki closed her eyes and shot wildly all over the place. Toki didn't need to use a gun, but used his sword to destroy the targets accurately. Day after day, they continued their grueling training regimen. While Yuki was resting, Tom and Mei tested new technology on the robot, which was the ability to move on water. However, this technology was still not perfected, causing the robot to only walk a few steps before sinking and water flooding the cockpit. Meanwhile, Yuki was curious about what Mika was doing during the summer break. Sophie informed her that there was Wi-Fi available, and Yuki discovered that Mika was participating in a cosplay festival and receiving a lot of admiration. Toki thought this festival was not in line with traditional customs, but he still took the opportunity to snap a few photos as mementos. After many days of practice, Yuki gradually got used to the pace and quickly learned many necessary skills. In the command room, after observing Toki throughout the training period, Yuki's mother decided to remove his restraining collar as a reward for his progress and good behavior. That afternoon, Yuki brought the sword to Toki. Before returning it to him, she wanted to make sure that this katana did not exist to bring death to him. After confirming, Yuki also removed Toki's collar. Not long after, another robot came to invade. This time there was only one, so it was quickly subdued by Toki and the others. However, this robot suddenly fled when it realized the situation was unfavorable. The command center couldn't identify this type of robot because it had very good camouflage abilities, making it difficult to track and analyze. Returning to school, everyone began to discuss organizing a cultural festival. After discussion, both classes agreed to choose the theme of combat robots at the research center for the festival. After agreeing on the plan, everyone began to prepare thoroughly. Meanwhile, Yuki, Toki, and Sophie returned to the research center to find a speaker for the festival. The first person they approached was Tom. He didn't hesitate to agree because he was very confident in his debating skills. Tom even joked that anyone who argued and won against him would get punched right away. However, Mei stopped them because they still had to participate in retesting the water walking ability of the robots. Then Yuki approached the group of black guys to invite them to speak, but they were also very busy. Yuki thought about inviting her mother, but even her subordinates were busy, let alone her mother having free time. Finally, all three decided that they would speak at the festival themselves. That evening, Toki and Yuki drove to buy food, but they were stopped by the homeroom teacher who called on people to take their cube back. News about the talk on combat robots at Yuki's school quickly spread in the media, and a suspicious person also caught wind of this information. The day of the cultural festival arrived and everyone began to gather at the school. Because there was time before the talk began, Maki suggested that Yuki and Toki take a walk to participate in the booths. Akagi also wanted to go along but was stopped by Maki. Yuki and Toki experienced many different games, and through this, Yuki gradually realized the importance of the cultural festival in helping people relieve pressure. After the outing, Yuki asked Toki what he would do after completing his revenge for the princess. Toki didn't have a clear answer, and Yuki expressed her desire for him to have an answer soon, as she really wanted to participate in the cultural festival with him again in the future. While the search team was hunting for the hidden robot, they discovered an unidentified object. Back at school, Yuki decided to take photos to preserve memories of the festival. While Yuki was choosing outfits, Toki was still uncertain about his future. When Yuki finished taking photos, Toki was very surprised to see that Yuki looked extremely similar to the princess, making him even more confused. At this moment, Sophie came to remind them that it was time for the talk. At the auditorium, when the talk began, the McFriend, being his first time hosting, kept stumbling over his words, causing Mika to replace him as the host. She then began to ask some questions related to Efidolk. While the program was going on, the suspicious person who had previously known about this event suddenly appeared. Without saying a word, he immediately lunged to attack Yuki. Toki quickly rushed out to fight, but was stunned when he realized the attacker was the princess, the person he had always tried to protect and avenge. In that moment of confusion, Toki was stabbed by the princess. Toki lost too much blood and quickly collapsed after the stab from the princess. When she was about to continue attacking, a mysterious person suddenly rushed out to block the attack. This situation caused panic among everyone. They began to run outside to avoid danger. Toshi also quickly came to assist, but Yuki was still in shock from what had just happened. Sophie slapped Yuki hard to help her regain her senses, then called Akagi to take Toki for treatment. When the princess saw Toki about to leave, she immediately rushed to stop him. However, the mysterious person didn't let her do that easily, and Toshi quickly joined to support. The army had arrived by now, and realizing the unfavorable situation, the princess immediately fled. Maki hurriedly brought the medical teacher Marina, but Marina, despite being a medical teacher, was afraid of blood, which was truly hopeless. The homeroom teacher had to replace her to stop Toki's bleeding. Yuki immediately called the to request assistance, and her mother received the news and sent a plane right away. Meanwhile, the princess was still being chased by the mysterious person and the army. Akagi's friend also ran after to film, but the situation became dangerous when the princess targeted him. The friend stood filming without realizing the danger approaching. Just as he was about to be slashed, a soldier rushed out to block the attack and was seriously injured. These journalists are truly reckless. The princess then went to the helicopter preparing to take Toki for emergency treatment. She absolutely wouldn't allow anyone to leave and immediately called for her combat robot. The commander received the signal, and since Toki was still unconscious, he ordered Tom and Mei to engage in battle. The mysterious person who appeared in this chaos had a face very similar to what Toki had sketched before, adding to the mystery of the situation. The hidden robot also began to act after seeing the princess move. Inside the helicopter, after the doctor's examination, it was found that Toki's body was self-healing, not needing medical intervention, and he had also regained consciousness. Outside, Tom and Sophie were facing off against the princess, but she easily defended and rushed straight to the research center. The commander realized the potential danger from the princess, so he decided to seek out Toki. Although Toki's health condition was still very weak, he was determined to go save the princess despite her having stabbed him. The commander informed that Toki's princess was also controlling a robot and was heading here, and Efidolk's target seemed to be Toki. He pleaded with Toki to pilot the black robot to protect this place, otherwise they would lose everything including the chance to save the princess. Toki agreed despite knowing his condition was terrible. The doctor injected him with a dose of painkillers so he could endure and fight. Both Toki and Yuki boarded the black robot preparing for battle. Yuki promised Toki that she wouldn't let him die. When they encountered the princess, Yuki sensed another robot approaching. Tom contacted and told them to hold on until he could get to the launch pad to support. The remaining robot had also arrived and all three plunged into battle. Yuki quickly realized that the opponents had no intention of cooperating in the fight. In fact, the purple-haired girl in the team only wanted to achieve merits for herself. Toki focused on attacking her, but realized she was stronger than he thought. Fortunately, Tom arrived just in time and switched to confronting the purple-haired girl, allowing Toki to focus on soloing with the princess. Although Toki was very weak, he still tried his best to bring the princess back. Yuki recognized Toki's difficulty and asked him to follow her plan if he wanted to save the princess. She immediately requested Toki to retreat and regroup with everyone. Yuki knew that the princess and the purple-haired girl didn't like to fight cooperatively, so she proposed an interception tactic. With Sophie's tactical formation, they easily defeated the purple-haired girl. Then the princess also couldn't withstand attacks from 3 different directions. The princess realized the critical situation, immediately called the mothership and dragged the purple-haired girl along to escape. Toki wanted to chase after, but Tom stopped him, advising that going on the mothership could only lead to death. After the battle, Toki was exhausted and fell into a coma. After the attack at the school, Toki was taken for emergency treatment. Surprisingly, it took him less than a day to fully recover from his wounds, to the extent that even the doctors were amazed at his recovery speed. After this event, many residents began to move houses to avoid danger, and shops also gradually closed due to a significant decrease in customers. Notably, Yuki became the center of gossip when people realized that Toki's attacker had a face very similar to hers. Meanwhile, the command side had made a significant breakthrough by successfully developing a type of robot that only needed one person to control. This meant that Mei and Toshi would participate in combat instead of just being pilots as before. However, not everything was smooth sailing. Sophie received an order from her father requesting her to return to France after the incident at the festival, forcing her to face a difficult decision: stay and fight with everyone or obey her parents and return to her homeland. On her way back, Sophie accidentally met Toki begging a vending machine for some food. Feeling sympathetic, she bought him a few items. While sitting with Toki, Sophie shared that she really wanted to stay and fight, but was torn by her parents' words. Now she had to decide between disobeying her parents to stay or listening to them and returning to France. However, Toki didn't seem to pay much attention to Sophie's story as he was focused on finishing the bowl of ramen she had just bought. When Toki was still hungry and wanted to eat more ice cream, he struggled to choose between green bean and red bean flavors. While pondering, he blurted out that warriors must decide their own fate. Sophie heard this and thought Toki was encouraging her, so she decided to choose according to her own wishes and confidently left. Finally, Toki chose red bean ice cream, although in my opinion, the green bean flavor seems tastier. Meanwhile, in space, the princess and the purple-haired girl were being punished for failing their previous mission. A bald guy wanted to be the next to join the fight, but the masked one stopped him, saying they needed to investigate thoroughly before continuing to attack. The princess and purple-haired girl earnestly begged to fight once more to restore their lost honor. Back to Toki, after failing to buy ice cream, he decided to go outside to relax and enjoy the scenery. Just then, Yuki came to visit him and brought him ice cream. They sat down and started talking. Yuki wondered if she and the princess really looked that similar. Toki replied that when he first met Yuki, he had also mistaken her for the princess because they really looked no different from each other. This made him confused about what to do if he had to face the princess again. While they were talking, they didn't know that the princess and the purple-haired girl had returned to Earth. The mysterious person also detected their presence. The next day, Yuki, along with Maki and Akagi's group, went to a location to film Maki in cosplay costume. Toki couldn't go along because he was required by the doctor to stay for a health check. Teacher Marina also went along, and Maki was the one who invited her to help relieve pressure after recent stressful events. Akagi revealed that Marina had submitted a resignation letter, but it was rejected. In the incident at the cultural festival, she was the one who persuaded other teachers to agree with the students' plan, and Maki thought that after this trip, Marina would feel more comfortable, so she invited her along. Meanwhile, at the research center, Toshi and Mei had excellently completed the training course for solo robot combat. In contrast, Sophie encountered many difficulties. Later, the commander announced the rearrangement of the combat formation because Sophie was about to return to France. Upon hearing this news, Toki strongly objected, arguing that Sophie's departure would reduce the safety of the research center. Although knowing Toki was right, the commander had no other choice, as Sophie's parents had great influence on the French government and the commander could do nothing to prevent it. At this time, the princess and the purple-haired girl had infiltrated the research center. They quickly eliminated 2 low-paid workers and disguised themselves as them to continue advancing deeper inside. Meanwhile, Yuki's group had started filming with Maki and teacher Marina participating in cosplay. They quickly immersed themselves in the filming work, unaware of the dangers lurking at the research center. The princess and the purple-haired girl advanced deep into the center and accidentally encountered Toki. They silently followed him. Toki soon realized their presence, but instead of fighting, he tried to help the princess remember the past and realize the truth. However, the princess did not listen and took Toki hostage, forcing him to go with them. The 3 then went to the excavation area where the purple-haired woman recognized an important object called the Cipher Stone. She believed that if they obtained it, the princess would complete her mission on this planet. After getting information about the Cipher Stone, all 3 returned to the black robot. At that moment, Sophie and the army arrived and quickly disarmed the princess. Seeing the unfavorable situation, the princess and the purple-haired woman immediately fled. Sophie wanted to attack, but Toki stopped her, making her realize that this action did not stem from Toki's loyalty to the princess, but could be for a deeper reason. This made Sophie decide not to return to France, as she was not comfortable leaving this place to Toki. Meanwhile, Yuki was also picked up by UN personnel and taken to the research center because an incident had occurred. Back to the princess and the purple-haired woman. Both had escaped under a dam. However, the purple-haired woman quickly betrayed the princess, intending to eliminate her to claim the achievement for herself. Realizing the danger, the princess quickly jumped down the waterfall to escape. Toki checked the security cameras and discovered that the princess had fallen down the waterfall. He immediately decided to set out to find her. The commander, though very worried, began to doubt whether Toki was truly trustworthy, as his actions were clearly helping the enemy. However, Yuki's mother believed that Toki was completely on their side. She thought he was simply trying to save the princess from the control of the demons. The commander temporarily put aside his doubts and ordered the local police to join in the search for the princess. Besides, currently, there is only one machine human operating on Earth, and they need cooperation from other countries to support, as the enemy's appearance rate continues to increase. Their purpose seems too obvious. They want to seize what is being excavated beneath the research center. The commander could use that to bargain or pressure, but perhaps the world would not accept this. Later, Yuki's mother met with Akagi's father to discuss the new machine-human parts that were about to be sent by the US, expected to arrive today. Meanwhile, Toki couldn't wait any longer and decided to use the black robot to search for the princess. Tom still suspected that Toki might betray them, but Toshi didn't believe it. He thought that if the princess was still alive, Toki would try to save her and persuade her to join their side, showing admirable loyalty. Sophie, however, wondered why Toki didn't explain everything clearly from the beginning to avoid suspicion. Toki then boarded the black robot with Yuki, and the commander also allowed both to use it. Outside, the purple-haired woman had sent all the information to the mothership, and the masked man assigned to the mission had arrived to pick her up. At this time, the US cargo plane had also arrived. However, an alert sounded in the command room when the masked man flew straight to the research center with a flying type machine human. On the way there, he attacked the cargo plane, forcing the US side to drop the cargo earlier than planned. The plane lost control and headed straight for the research center. In this critical situation, the black robot appeared just in time and successfully prevented the plane from crashing. The masked man then flew by and found the purple-haired woman's location. After learning that the princess was dead, he decided to find her body and take revenge on Toki, despite the purple-haired woman's efforts to stop him. When facing the enemy, Toki pulled him away from the research center to fight. Immediately, the masked man pulled Toki high into the sky, where he couldn't attack because he was surrounded by dark clouds. He attacked while pulling Toki up to the sky, while the commander wanted to use missiles for support, but the weather was too bad to deploy. At that moment, another flying-type machine human appeared, merged with the black robot, and gave Toki a pair of wings, activating the flying tribe system. Toki and Yuki could easily fight the masked man. the wings became a part of the black robot, helping Toki reduce gravity and allowing him to fly, becoming a samurai in the sky. The two quickly defeated the masked man, forcing him to retreat after being overwhelmed. After the battle, the supporting wings asked Toki about his purpose for fighting. Toki still asserted that he was fighting to avenge the Washiba clan. The wings thought he might be losing his way, but said they would still support him when needed and then left. Yuki noticed that the voice of the wings was very familiar. A month had passed since the princess went missing, but there was still no news about her. Toki and Yuki had been working hard during this time, and today was their payday. Although Toki initially didn't care about receiving a salary, when he learned that the money could be used to buy food, he quickly changed his mind and accepted it immediately. When returning home, Toki gave a portion of the money to the uncle who had been helping him all this time as a thank you gift. However, the uncle refused to accept this money. Meanwhile, Yuki had just received her salary but was only thinking about shopping. The uncle had to remind her that she should think about buying something for her little sister. While thinking about what to buy, Yuki accidentally saw an advertisement on TV about a hot spring bath service. She decided to organize a trip for the family and invited Maki to come along. But when she arrived at school, Yuki noticed that only a few people were in class, which made her feel a bit bored. Instead of just inviting a few people, Maki decided to invite the whole class to participate to create memories for those who were about to move away. The whole class agreed to participate, but when it came time to depart, only Akagi's group and a few others actually went along. Toki had bought a lot of ingredients to prepare meals because with Yuki's salary, they could only rent a room without accompanying food services. The trip began when the uncle drove the group to where they would be staying. When they arrived, they were led by an uncle to the apartment they had rented. This uncle announced that there were no public hot springs in this area, but there was a shortcut up the mountain to a secret mansion of Kenshin where there was an outdoor bath. However, the uncle warned that bathing there at night was very dangerous because bears often appeared, and the person in charge only worked in the morning. Nevertheless, the group was still excited about the trip. When they returned to the apartment, Toki quickly began preparing dinner while Akagi's group went sightseeing. A while later, the curry Toki cooked was ready, and everyone praised the excellent flavor of the dish. During dinner, one of Akagi's friends showed a film he had just edited. However, his editing skills were quite poor, causing everyone to constantly criticize. Nevertheless, they decided to make another, better film together, not knowing that this film was actually a farewell from the friend who was about to transfer schools. The next morning, everyone set out for the hot springs, but Akagi's group had not yet woken up, so they went ahead. On the way, Yuki discovered she had forgotten her towel and decided to go back to get it. Toki, worried about Yuki's safety, followed her. Meanwhile, the princess was soaking in the hot spring to heal her wounds. While relaxing, she remembered childhood memories of living with her parents. Yuki, while returning, accidentally got lost and ended up at an abandoned hot spring area with Toki. They decided to split up to bathe. While bathing, Yuki unexpectedly encountered the princess. Although Yuki tried to talk to the princess, she didn't listen at all. With no other choice, Yuki had to call Toki for help. Hearing Yuki's voice, Toki immediately rushed in, breaking through the wall to get to her. Just as Toki arrived, the princess suddenly fainted, and at that moment, agents burst in and took the princess away. Yuki went outside to call Maki, but suddenly a demon appeared and kidnapped her, taking her to the mothership. On the spaceship, a big misunderstanding occurred when the commanders thought Yuki was the missing princess, so they focused only on treating her injuries without realizing they had captured the wrong person. Back at the research center, the situation became more tense than ever when Yuki's mother heard that her daughter had been kidnapped. Worry and despair engulfed them, but Yuki's family and teammates still couldn't come up with a rescue plan. Meanwhile, after the real princess underwent a comprehensive examination, she caused great surprise when her DNA results were identical to Yuki's. This led the doctor to come to a shocking conclusion: the princess was actually Yuki's ancestor. The commander at the research center gathered the pilots to find a way to rescue Yuki. However, the situation became complicated when the black robot couldn't be used. Therefore, Tom, Mei, and Toshi would have to use remotely controlled robots to prepare for any possible attacks. Sophie couldn't participate in the fight because she was waiting for orders to return to her country. Meanwhile, Yuki's mother had become so desperate that she had to contact NASA for help. But everyone was helpless in the current situation. At this time, the doctor came to find the commander and informed him that they could activate the black robot without a pilot, similar to how Fosnarni had done before. However, the commander didn't want to use this measure immediately and decided to keep it as a last resort when there were no other options left. Toki couldn't sit still. Sophie came to see him and tried to convince him that they had already rescued the princess and didn't need to care about Yuki anymore. However, Toki kept his promise to protect Yuki, although he currently couldn't pilot the black robot, which made him feel useless. Nevertheless, Toki was still determined to protect the princess regardless of which side she was on. Sophie felt disappointed in Toki and left. While Sophie was sitting and thinking, suddenly red text appeared, informing her that if she wanted to know more about the demons, she just needed to nod, and it would come to meet her. Without hesitation, Sophie agreed immediately. On the spaceship, the purple-haired woman began to worry that Yuki might reveal the secret about her attacking the princess, so she planned to eliminate Yuki. However, when she stabbed into Yuki's treatment chamber, Yuki was nowhere to be found. Sophie then began to learn about the mysterious person she had met earlier. At the doctor's place, although the princess had the ability to recover quickly like Toki, some of her wounds couldn't heal. The reason was that the princess's antibodies were fighting against a virus, and the recovery nanomachines were also fighting against something that could destroy her body. This was similar to when the black robot's nano sword cut into nano armor, preventing the armor from self-repairing. To treat her, the doctor needed to break the status quo by infusing new nanomachines, and that nanosource was from Toki's blood. Thanks to Toki's blood, the princess woke up after a period of coma. The doctor examined her wounds and noticed that although the princess refused to acknowledge it, her DNA was completely identical to Yuki's, confirming that she was the princess from 450 years ago. The doctor then informed the princess about Yuki being mistakenly captured and left with Toki. Meanwhile, Sophie had been taken home by Toshi. As soon as she entered the house, she met the mysterious person again, who introduced himself as Zero. Zero explained that he didn't approach Toki or Yuki because he feared they would be agitated, and Sophie was the smartest, so he chose her to communicate with. Zero revealed that he was neither human nor an ally or enemy of humanity, but shared a common enemy with humanity, Efidalg. Back at the research center, Toki had secretly met with the princess to ask for her help in activating the black robot and rescuing Yuki. Although he still didn't have a clear plan, the princess decided to pretend she had stolen the black robot and call the mothership to take it back. However, she wasn't sure if Toki would survive on the mothership. Without hesitation, Toki agreed immediately. The two quickly set out to the black robot, and everything went smoothly as Yuki's mother's group had helped them get there safely. This was Yuki's mother's plan when she had tried to call for all possible help, but no one could help, so she had to rely on Toki. Then both Toki and the princess boarded the black robot, and at this moment, a message from the princess 450 years ago appeared. In the message, the princess demanded that her descendants must fight against the demons to protect the people, which was the supreme mission of the Washiba clan. This made the current princess realize that there were many secrets about herself that she had never known. Determined to uncover the truth, she emphasized that they must question the commander to get to the bottom of things. After that, both Toki and the princess set out together. The alarm system on the spaceship rang out everywhere. The doctor announced that the princess had disappeared, and Black Robot was starting up without permission. The commander immediately ordered Tom and May to stop Black Robot, but they discovered that there was an emergency lock preventing any intervention attempts. Realizing the situation, the commander used his emergency powers and immediately ordered the arrest of Yuki's mother. She knew that she had achieved her purpose, didn't resist, and accepted being arrested. Meanwhile, Sophie was having a tense conversation with Zero. He revealed that the purpose of Efidalg, the common enemy of humanity and his planet, was absolute domination. Efidalg wanted to turn Earth into a colony where all of humanity would be controlled under a strict hierarchical system. In that system, human will would have no value. Zero's words made Sophie more worried about Earth's future. Back on the spaceship, Yuki had somehow escaped from the room where she was held. While trying to explore her surroundings, she unexpectedly encountered Purple Hair, who had been hunting her before. While running away, Yuki luckily found a secret room. Here she discovered a strange device that asked her to put her hand in. When Yuki did so, her mind was pushed out into space, and she began to find a way back to Earth. At the same time, the princess had contacted the Ephidog mothership to request her return. The Ephidog commander quickly realized that they had caught the wrong person and ordered the demons to eliminate Yuki to protect their secret. Zeru continued to share his story with Sophie, revealing that his planet had been invaded by Ephidog and he had come to Earth to avenge his fallen comrades. Zeru once wanted to cooperate with humans to fight against Ephidog, but after nearly being killed due to human suspicion, he decided to just stand aside and provide information. He also revealed that the previous battles that humans participated in were only confrontations with an Ephidog reconnaissance unit, and the real invaders had not yet appeared. Zeru's planet had fallen because they couldn't react quickly enough to Ephidog's sudden and rapid attack. Before leaving, Zeru left Sophie a USB drive containing important information. Meanwhile, Yuki discovered information about the Ephidog invasion and Zeru's planet, but couldn't find any useful clues to return to Earth. She heard an announcement that the princess's robot had been repaired and decided to use it to return. When entering another room, Yuki discovered a human head that frightened her and made her run away. At the same time, Toki had boarded the Ephidog mothership. Upon arrival, the princess went down first to assess the situation. When she went to her room to get weapons, she discovered that a sword was missing, as Yuki had taken it for self-defense. Then the princess went to report the situation to the commander. During the report, an announcement rang out indicating that Toki had acted on his own, causing chaos. Realizing that the princess might betray them, the Ephidog commander ordered her execution. Meanwhile, Yuki, while running away, once again encountered Purple Hair. She was constantly pressured, but fortunately, Toki arrived in time to rescue her. After that, all three of them fled from the mothership together. Yuki was very happy to see Toki had come to save her, but he simply said that he was keeping his promise to her. However, before they could rejoice, all three were suddenly thrown into space by a masked figure using a pushing force. Luckily, Zeru appeared just in time to rescue all three. Meanwhile, in the command room, everyone breathed a sigh of relief when they received news that Toki had successfully rescued Yuki. But before the joy could subside, they received information that the Ephidog mothership was entering Earth's orbit, preparing for a major invasion. It was expected that in just 2 more hours the ship would reach Earth. Yuki's group also arrived at a safe place. When they landed, the whole team breathed a sigh of relief, especially Yuki's mother when she saw her daughter return safely. Yuki was welcomed by her teammates, but the situation remained tense due to the presence of the princess who, although she had helped them, was still a member of Ephidog, the enemy of humanity. Zeru suddenly appeared right after they landed, but before he could explain anything, Toki drew his sword and charged straight at him. However, Zeru easily subdued Toki with just a single move. Zeru then revealed a shocking truth. The real princess had died 450 years ago, and the person they were seeing was just a copy created from the genetic information of the real princess. This copy was merely a puppet created to serve Ephidog's plans. All the memories of family that the princess thought were real were false, programmed to manipulate her. The head that Yuki had seen on the Ephidog ship was the device creating another copy, continuing the enemy's chain of conspiracies. Ephidog had the ability to create loyal subjects by implanting false memories into entities on the planets they invaded. Zeru's planet had suffered a similar fate, and if Zeru didn't act, Earth would be invaded in a similar way. Zeru proposed cooperating with humanity to fight against Ephidog, but Toki firmly refused. Zeru just laughed, saying that the decision wasn't up to a lowly soldier like Toki, and left Toki's sword behind before leaving. Yuki was still puzzled and asked Zeru about the watch on his wrist. Zeru revealed that Yuki's father had once been a good friend of his. After this dialogue, the commander had reinstated Yuki's mother, returning her to an important role in the campaign. At this point, the General Secretary had called and ordered them to protect the research center at all costs with support from allied countries. Evacuation orders were issued, and everyone began preparing for the upcoming battle. The Ephidog mothership had entered Earth's orbit and began dropping combat robots to the surface. The commander immediately ordered all warriors into battle. Although Sophie was still not allowed to participate in the battle, Hakuteki had activated the flight system, and, along with Zeru, Toki transformed into a samurai in the air. But all three were immediately pulled down to the ground by the masked one, and Ephidog's robots quickly invaded the research center. Although the army opened fire against them, it was all in vain. The gunshots only wasted taxpayers' money without causing any harm to the enemy. Tom's group began to engage in battle, but May was attacked by the bald one and lost an arm, while Toshi was stabbed in the stomach by the purple-haired woman, losing his ability to fight. Only Tom was left standing, but the situation worsened as the robots began to penetrate deep into the center. The commander ordered a complete evacuation while the Ephidog mothership descended to the ground and began releasing a huge membrane covering the entire area. Many robots emerged from the mothership, beginning to capture and subdue the survivors. Maki's group, in the process of evacuation, encountered Sophie trying to save the fake princess. They decided to help Sophie, but soon after, the purple-haired one discovered the princess and rushed to attack. Toshi, with his last strength, decided to sacrifice himself to eliminate the purple-haired one, giving others a chance to escape. Tom was very angry at the death of his teammate and wanted to stay and fight to the end, but Toki pulled him away, knowing this was not the time for pointless sacrifice. Finally, the first battle with Ephidog ended in humanity's defeat, a bitter loss. Everyone gathered at the assembly point where they prepared for the next battles. The commander had decided to use the school as a temporary base in the current emergency situation. They were looking for a way to escape from the protective shield with a diameter of 25 kilometers surrounding the area. But digging was impossible because this shield was in the form of a spherical block covering everything. However, light could still penetrate this shield, so they tried to communicate with the outside using optical glasses. What the Ephidog were looking for was the Cypress Stone, a mysterious object that had been buried underground for 450 years. While the group could only set up a small altar to commemorate those who had sacrificed, the doctor was still striving to save the wounded. Outside, the Ephidog had captured those who were subdued and forced them to excavate mysterious stones that suited their purposes. As for Yuki and her group, after returning to the uncle's house with the fake princess, they met Zeru. Everyone sat down together to discuss. Zeru began to tell a story that happened 8 years ago. At that time, he accidentally saw a man setting traps on the mountain, not to catch wild animals but to catch Zeru himself. That man was Yuki's father. He was very patient, trying different ways to lure Zeru out, and finally, he used his own flesh. Zeru had to appear to stop him from continuing to do so. When he saw Zeru, Yuki's father was very happy because his hypothesis had been proven correct. The name Zeru was also given to him by Yuki's father. Zeru then took Yuki's father to his base, which was full of simple household items and food like fast food. Zeru explained that the number of forest animals like deer and rabbits was decreasing rapidly due to hunting, so they couldn't eat them too much. He also revealed that the prophecy, "The evil will return," was actually a warning about the return of Ephidog. Zeru couldn't directly communicate with humans, so he could only imply this risk. Yuki's father and Zeru had tried to find ways to inform the world about this threat, but all efforts failed. When Yuki's father left the base, he had an accident while coming down the mountain and didn't survive. When Zeru found him, it was too late. Zeru could only keep his watch and diary as the last mementos. However, in the end, Zeru had helped Yuki's father prove that he wasn't lying about the existence of evil. Meanwhile, on the Ephidog mothership, the mysterious stones began to activate, causing the surrounding temperature to drop sharply. The purple-haired one was still alive and continued to carry out her mission. As for Yuki's group, they found themselves in a difficult situation when the princess suddenly disappeared, forcing Toki to go out to search for her. The princess, in her confusion, had followed Yuki's pet and didn't know where to go. As the weather began to turn cold and snow fell heavily, Yuki decided to go up the mountain to find the princess. However, she accidentally tripped and lost consciousness. In her dream, Yuki saw her father smiling gently at her before disappearing. When she woke up, she realized that she and the princess were lying next to each other, both having to hug each other to keep warm. After that, they both changed clothes and prepared to leave. Yuki wanted to wait for the snow to melt, but the princess explained that the snow wouldn't melt because the cypress stone was condensing the snow. The cypress stone not only lowered the surrounding temperature, but also prepared to open a gate for Ephidog's main forces to enter, marking the beginning of the Earth invasion. Recognizing the danger, they knew they had to find a way to prevent this. Toki had also arrived to pick up both of them. The current situation was becoming extremely tense as the Cypress Stone was growing increasingly, and it was almost certain that the Ephidolg would attack soon. If humans didn't prepare carefully, Earth would soon perish under the destruction of the invaders. The Ephidolg would exploit all the planet's resources and then prepare to invade other planets. As for humans, if not eliminated, they would be deprived of freedom and lose their future. However, all communications to request rescue had been cut off, making the situation even more dangerous. Meanwhile, Tom proposed using guerrilla tactics to fight against Ephidolg, but the commander informed that only 2 robots were capable of operating, one belonging to Tom and one being Haku Teki. May added that there was another robot belonging to the princess, but it had fallen into a ravine when the Ephidolg mothership appeared. Although retrieving this robot was extremely difficult, the commander still advised everyone not to give up hope. While defense plans were being discussed, Yuki's group, having nothing specific to do, gathered at the school along with the princess. However, apart from Maki's group, most people avoided them due to fear of being associated with the princess. At this time, the homeroom teacher also appeared. Seeing that the apocalypse was approaching but students were still studying diligently, the teacher decided to tell an inspiring story to help the students gain more spirit to face the upcoming challenges. Toki then went to the counseling room to meet the teacher after class. When the class ended, they had a conversation. Toki shared that he wanted to become a samurai, but the teacher thought that in these times, that profession couldn't feed one's stomach. The teacher advised that in this world, Toki wouldn't be able to complete his life story like other children. However, one day Toki would find something that only he could do. Although there would be difficult times, if he had determination, everything would be all right. Most importantly, never lose yourself. At the end of the counseling session, Toki and his group went to dinner. The princess tasted Earth food for the first time and found it extremely delicious. In just a moment, she had devoured 3 plates of food. She shared that before, she only ate tasteless cubes, not as good as this. Yuki expressed her wish for the princess to stay on Earth after everything was over because there were many wonderful things waiting for them out there. However, the princess felt completely empty inside and didn't know what to do next. At this time, the school's top counselor, Miss Marina, appeared and gave sincere advice to help the princess gradually calm down and find some peace in her heart. After the meal, everyone returned to the classroom, and Akagi's friend had completed a new film script, based on the ideas that the group had discussed when at the hot spring. Although they had nothing specific to do, they decided to start filming immediately. Other students in the class also wanted to participate, and the whole class prepared to shoot a film about samurai zombies playing baseball. The princess didn't understand why they were doing this when war was about to break out, but Toki explained that this was also a way to prepare for the battle, helping everyone's spirits relax before the intense challenges. The filming began with everyone's enthusiastic participation. Tom disguised himself as a terrorist to participate in the scene, while May played the role of Bruce Lee and delivered a powerful kick to Tom. Everyone laughed and had fun, including the princess enjoying a small moment of peace before the big storm hit. After a period of reflection and facing truths about herself, the princess decided to meet the commander to propose cooperation. She was ready to fight not only to protect Earth, but also to learn more about herself. The commander, seeing the princess's determination, happily agreed. At this time, information about the shard being raised further intensified the atmosphere more than ever. Everyone quickly prepared for the decisive battle. Before heading into battle, Toki wanted Yuki to trust and entrust her life to him. Of course, Yuki immediately refused. However, when Toki promised that he would return her life to her after everything was over, Yuki agreed. Meanwhile, Toki also gave an answer to the question that Yuki had asked him before. After avenging the princess, what will you do? Toki declared that he had decided to marry Yuki, making her blush with embarrassment. This confession not only confused Yuki, but was also heard by everyone around. With that proposal, everyone's spirits were lifted even more, and they set out to fight. The group of warriors headed straight for the Ephidolg mothership. Black Robot rushed into battle with 3 enemy commanders, buying time for everyone to infiltrate the mothership through the tunnel. Tom, still bitter about Toshi's death, was determined to avenge his comrade. Meanwhile, Sophie suddenly attacked from above, creating chaos in the enemy formation. Zeru, seeing Toki in difficulty, quickly activated the support system to help him fight more effectively. At this moment, the purple-haired woman also appeared and intended to attack Sophie. However, the princess suddenly emerged from underwater and rushed into the battle with the purple-haired woman, beginning to settle old grudges from before. Meanwhile, the group's commander had successfully infiltrated the mothership's control center and started looking for ways to regain control. Yuki's mother used the USB that Zero had given her, and all the data on it completely matched the mothership's system. The commander ordered Tom and Zero to go down to the basement to find Fusnarni's robot. While Sophie was gradually losing ground in the battle, a series of bombs suddenly exploded. It was Toshi, whom everyone thought had died, but had actually survived miraculously. Toshi's return brought great joy to Sophie and the whole team. Tom had now reached the robot, but Zero warned him that if he linked with it, he would no longer be human. However, Tom didn't care because ever since witnessing the death of his comrades, that no longer mattered to him. He asked Zero to quickly complete the linking process so he could continue fighting. At the same time, the princess was fighting fiercely with a purple-haired woman. When the purple-haired woman lost focus, Toshi suddenly appeared and stabbed her leg, helping the princess quickly end the battle. The masked man intended to avenge the purple-haired woman, but Toki didn't give him a chance. The two engaged in an intense aerial battle, but it was clear that Toki was no match for him. Sophie, realizing the dangerous situation, contacted Toki and asked him to fly straight to the research center to lure the masked man to follow. Sophie would take care of the rest. Toki followed the plan, and as he was about to arrive, Sophie used the launcher to destroy one of the masked man's wings, allowing Toki to defeat him. Now only the bald man remained, but he had been activated by the Ephidog commander's giant system, making him larger and more powerful. Tom quickly came to support, and Yuki devised a battle plan. Everyone just needed to hold off the swords, and she would take care of the rest. They all charged together, but Sophie had to sacrifice her robot to keep the sword. Immediately, Yuki used the spear to stab the bald man, finishing him off completely. Meanwhile, the Ephidog commander, realizing the unfavorable situation, hurriedly ran back to the mothership to prepare to accelerate the invasion process. Toki and the princess gave chase, but Yuki was still very shocked after killing someone with her own hands. This forced Toki to stay behind to comfort her. At this point, the Ephidog commander was preparing to speed up the invasion process, but suddenly Zero appeared and delivered a fatal blow to him. He was also an entity similar to Zero. Zero then released a mind-controlling bug into his ear and ordered him to stop activating the shard. After things temporarily stabilized, everyone began to interrogate the commander about Ephidog's true purpose. He revealed that the goal of this invasion was to eliminate potential threats to Ephidog. However, he didn't know the exact location of Ephidog, and only said that if this invasion failed, another army would come to Earth at normal speed. According to calculations, this army would reach Earth in about 224 evolution cycles. Zero, worried about the survival of his home planet, asked the Ephidog commander about the current situation. The commander revealed that the invasion process of Zeru's planet had only reached about 80% because Zeru's species had always fought very hard to protect their homeland. The good news was that they were currently establishing an intergalactic alliance to take back what Ephidog had taken away. Hearing this news, Zero felt overjoyed to know that his species was still fighting and not submitting to Ephidog's brutality. The princess, worried about herself, also asked the commander about her origins. He revealed that Ephidog had plans to copy species from the planets they were about to invade to produce copies like her. However, after the invasion process was complete, all copies, including the princess, would be destroyed. This made her understand more about her identity, and although there were still many difficulties ahead, both she and everyone else realized that this was an important victory for humanity against Ephidog. The commander then had a conversation with a senator, and she decided that humanity would not join the Intergalactic Alliance. Instead, they decided to destroy the shard to stop Ephidog. Around the world, countries began an arms race to prepare for the potential invasion from Ephidog. Meanwhile, Zero had told Yuki about what had happened to Toki 450 years ago. Zero remembered that at that time, he and his team were on their way to stop Ephidog's invasion. However, a ship from Ephidog had rushed towards Earth at very high speed. Due to their great hatred, Zero's group decided to crash the two ships into each other, resulting in the surviving members of Ephidog falling to Earth along with the shard. Zeru's group couldn't ignore this and plunged down to Earth to continue fighting. But after many fierce battles, the number of their pilots gradually decreased, leading to a shortage of forces. Zeru realized that he needed more allies to continue the fight. In an attack on Ephidog's mothership, Zeru had rescued those controlled by the bug, but only the princess and Toki survived. The princess had agreed to fight to protect the people and help her descendants go further. However, in the end, neither could escape the big explosion. The princess sacrificed herself while Toki fell into hibernation. After learning the truth, Toki thanked Zeru for giving him and the princess another chance to fight. In the following days, the princess had to undergo surveillance and control by the United Nations. When Toki and Yuki came to visit her, the princess's condition was very bad. The doctor explained that they had injected her with power-suppressing drugs in case she betrayed them. Toki was angry and wanted to take her away, but the doctor also injected him with a similar dose, causing him to lose his ability to fight. Toki left angrily while Yuki returned home. When Yuki got home, she met her mother who had been fired after the previous incident. Yuki's mother wanted to take this opportunity to take the whole family on a vacation to relax and forget about the recent tensions. Yuki wanted to invite Toki along, but her mother advised her to forget about him, although not understanding exactly what was happening. That night when Toki returned, he invited Yuki to go out the next day. That day, the two had a fun day together experiencing happy moments. However, in the afternoon, Toki revealed that he would leave with Zeru and the princess to rescue other planets from Ephidog's invasion. He had no intention of taking Yuki along, and the promise to marry her was just a lie. This made Yuki extremely sad, and she burst into tears. Toki went to see Akagi and asked him to take care of Yuki in his place. Akagi felt angry at Toki's selfishness and punched him to show his displeasure. When he returned to class, Akagi saw Yuki sad about Toki's departure. Yuki understood that Toki's decision to leave was to repay Zeru for helping him 450 years ago, but that didn't ease the pain in her heart. Akagi asked Yuki if she wanted to fight alongside Toki. Although knowing that following him would be very dangerous, Yuki was determined to stand by Toki's side because she really wanted to be with him. Seeing Yuki's determination, Akagi promised to help her go with Toki. Maki's group also volunteered to help. They began planning to break into the research center. While Maki and Akagi's friend drew the reporters to cause a disturbance, Akagi and Yuki's group went deep inside. Akagi stayed behind to keep watch while Yuki and two others continued to advance to Black Robot. On the way, they met Toshi, who was on guard, but also agreed to help them turn off the security system, helping Yuki's group easily approach Black Robot. Yuki then used the princess's robot to bring Black Robot out. Toki learned about everything through the live video of Akagi's friend. Yuki came to pick up Toki's group, and Zeru quickly activated the Cypress Stone to open a space gate on the mothership. Toki and the princess rushed straight out into space, and Yuki followed, determined to fight alongside Toki. Seeing that he couldn't stop Yuki, Toki reluctantly agreed to let her come along. At this moment, Yuki's mother called and told her to come back, but Yuki had made her decision. Seeing this, her mother didn't stop her anymore, just reminding Yuki to remember to come back for New Year's. While flying, they were intercepted by Tom and May. Yuki was knocked down, leaving only Toki and the princess to enter the teleportation gate. Yuki promised to find Toki, and Toki also promised to wait for her. After Toki entered, the gate closed, and the fragments were scattered everywhere. Not long after, the baseball samurai zombie movie that the whole class had made was released, and everyone happily enjoyed it together. Time flew by as fast as a dog riding a motorcycle in the field. 5 years had passed since the battle. The spaceship that would join Toki in the fight was completed and preparing for launch. Thanks to the data Zeru left behind, they were able to complete the ship so quickly. Yuki, along with Sophie and Toshi, launched straight into space to find Toki. And here, the anime series ended, leaving viewers with an open ending about a hopeful journey of search and reunion.